What's going on, guys? Welcome back into the Berry Blessed podcast. My name is Derek.
My name is Kayla,
and we are the Berries. So today we're going to do something a little different. As some of you may know, I am a chaplain for a wellness center. So for people that are recovering addicts or alcoholics, substance abuse is what we deal with mostly at the clinic that I'm at. So every Monday I teach a class that has biblical iterations that we place in, but we always do some type of a lesson that is also practical as well. Same kind of thing that we do here on the channel. We're trying to expose Christianity and expose it in the light that it is supposed to be exposed in, which is Christianity means Christ-like. So we all have free will. We are all able to make up our own minds about what we believe and what we do not believe. And we believe that Jesus is Lord. We believe that God is the creator of the universe. And we believe that Christianity is true. But we understand that there are some people that come across our channel that do not share those beliefs. And that's okay. We like to also give practical examples and whatnot as well for those who just use our channel as a way to be motivated, as a way to see things a bit differently. So I say all that because I will be teaching on mental strength. So you might see me look over to the left a couple of times here because I've got notes for what I'm going to speak on. But I wanted my wife's input, so we figured we'd turn it into a podcast today. Mental strength. When I say mental strength, after you've reviewed my slides and kind of did a little bit of research yourself, what are your thoughts on mental strength?
Well, I feel like mental strength is daily, like living or daily life, I would say. Daily tasks from start of your day, mentally preparing yourself to get up if you have to go to school, if you have to go to work, mentally like, okay, I got to get through this day. I got to go to work. I have to get to work either if it's driving or taking transportation like an Uber, a Lyft, a bus, biking to work, getting there, getting your day started. That takes your mental to get started, get your day started. Like, again, starting your day in the morning, getting dressed and everything. And then, most days, I would say during the week, probably a good, maybe for me, maybe 30 to 40% of the time, I don't want to get out of bed. I don't want to go to work during the week. But it changes. It changes every week. I feel like that's for everybody because especially like with me, I'm a big scheduler. I like to schedule my weeks in advance. So I know what I'm getting myself into the next week. So I know I have meetings this week. I have a lot of things going on with my transition at work. Just kind of your mental intelligence of like, okay, I know what I need to get my mind right, get my mind focused, but some people don't have that mental capacity to where it's like, okay, I don't want to go to work, I'm just going to call in. But, there's different mindsets of mental stability, your mental intelligence, whatever you want to call it. Everybody is different.
Yeah, I think what it's more so seeming like you're talking about is mental preparation.
Yeah.
And so you're kind of preparing yourself mentally for, the physical things that you're about to do for, your day, then for your week and things of that nature. So backing up and instead of making it such a practical thing, kind of thinking big picture, I've got a couple definitions here. There's two ways to look at mental strength. You're either strong-minded or you're weak-minded. So strong-minded, definition here, not easily influenced by others, having a vigorous mind, marked by independence of thought and judgment. And when I read that, the word vigorous stands out. So vigorous defined is a strong, healthy, full of energy, carried out forcefully, full of physical or mental strength. So when I hear, strong, mentality or having a strong-mindedness, a strong kind of mindset, I think of people who are kind of like you were saying, like prepared, but also people that are just confident. I think is a word to use there. Very, very confident in what their ability is. Very, very confident in what they can accomplish, and just very self-assured as well. They know themselves very well, which makes them strong-minded. And for anyone to be very confident in things, they have to know the subject. So for me, I'm extremely confident in ophthalmology. I've been in ophthalmology for 16 years. So yeah, confidence, I guess, is the only word that I can really say. A self-assurance on the knowledge that I have in ophthalmology. Now, you take me outside of that and you ask me about dentistry. I'm not going to be very self-assured. I'm not going to be confident at all, because that's not my jam. That's not what I know.
That's the same thing with me. Like, I've been in property management for over 8 years, I think going on 9 now. But out of that 4.5, almost 5 years, I've been doing leasing. So you can tell me and ask me any question about my property and where it's located. I can tell you if it's a north, east, south facing unit, what square footage, what's the current rent, all that. Like, I'm very confident in leasing and just being strong minded. But it's also, I feel like if you're strong minded and also your mental is very strong, when you put something forth and you put a lot of work into it, like your job, some people just have a job to make a paycheck, which is, I mean, which is fine. But unless you put in the work, there's more opportunity. And it's just, you get more confident when you're mentally more confident.
Yeah, I think it's, again, we just keep saying the word confident, but I think that's what it really comes down to is when you're strong-minded, it's you trust the knowledge that you have. And when it's something that is, a specialty, or something that's kind of a niche, like ophthalmology is, like leasing or property management is, there's a lot to learn, but once you've mastered it and once you've learned it, you just kind of just gain this kind of self assurance. You gain this amount of confidence to where once you have it, it's something that you can speak to. But on the opposite, the flip side of that, there's people that are weak minded, and weak minded simply means the lack of determination, emotional strength, and lacking in judgment or in good sense. So when we hear that, it's the opposite, essentially. If you're lacking determination, that's a big problem, because then that means it's hard for you to become motivated. I'm easily motivated when it comes to my job because of my assurance. I'm easily motivated in my daily activities and my preparation for like getting out of bed, getting my daughter ready for school. I'm very easily motivated by those things. But there are people that are on the opposite spectrum that are not. Maybe these people are ones that have maybe had life very, very easy. They've had things handed to them. They haven't had to hold down a job. They haven't had to go through a lot of adversity. Or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe they haven't had things handed to them. Maybe they have went through a ton of adversity and that has weighed them down so much that it has damaged their mental fortitude and now they're struggling.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it just depends. It depends on, again, going back to, if you are strong minded, you take the bull by its horns and you take off on almost everything that you do that you're motivated to do. But if you're weak minded, of course you're going to struggle and not be motivated to either go to work, go to school. So it just really depends on who you are, and everybody is so different. They might be intelligent in their job, but at home in their relationship, they're not motivated. They just kind of go to work, they thrive at work, come home, they eat, do what they have to do, watch TV, and go to bed and repeat. So, like, it just depends. Everybody is so different.
Yeah. Three traits of those that are strong minded are independent, productive, and determined. So, independent, okay, independence obviously means that you're not reliant on others. this is a good and a bad thing. You know, if you're a really, really independent person who just feels like you can do everything by yourself, well, that's where things can get kind of tricky because we all need people. The productive piece of it, I think, is it kind of goes back to that motivating. You know, if you're motivated to do something, you're going to be productive. What are you producing? What is the results of your goals and things that you're going after? And then finally, if you're determined, you're not going to allow obstacles to get in your way of productivity. You're going to be determined to press through those.
I was very independent growing up. Independence was a big, I was taught independence. I was really taught that I can do everything by myself if I put my mind to it. Like, I don't need somebody, like a man, for instance, to pay for everything. So that word is very familiar to me, especially in my childhood, because I was always taught like you can do it, you're able to do everything by yourself. You don't need somebody else in your life um to get a car, get a house. You're able to do it by yourself. And I there's good things and there's get bad things if you never get out of that independent mindset. You don't want to ask for help. And I'm still struggling, even as a Christian, I'm still struggling with independence to this day, because it was drilled in my head growing up that, hey, yes, it'd be nice to have somebody to live life with, but I can do this by myself. I'm capable. I have two hands, I have 2 feet. I'm able to do it.
Yeah, and that's been a little bit of the struggle that we've had. You know, when I should say more so when we first started dating. It was more so you were so used to being independent and so used to being by yourself and doing things on your own that when I attempted to come in and take some of that weight off, you were very hesitant to give up that independence. And it's not like I was, trying to be, someone that's controlling at all. But you'll find with independent people that they tend to want to do things themselves, and they sometimes will take offense to someone else trying to do things for them. Case in point today, simple gesture. My wife had cooked, and we were cleaning up, and we're throwing things away, and the trash had filled, and you were ready to go take the trash down. And I'm like, no, I will take the trash down. Just simple little things like that. And, of course, your rebuttal was,
I can do it myself. I do
and
it when you're not here.
exactly,
Which is quite a bit of the time.
but I'm here today.
Yeah.
I'm here. So that's kind of my thing.
Yeah.
There's also been some instances in the winter time. It snows in Wisconsin. My wife likes to believe that she can just do snow and shovel it when I'm here, and that's not a thing. I do it when I'm here. But when I'm not, obviously she does. So there's a line, right? There's it's easy to become prideful if a person is too independent, but also it's easy then to overwork yourself if you're trying to be a little bit too independent. So there's a fine line between that, I think.
But it also goes back to how you were raised. Like, that's why I am the way I am, because it was drilled. And now, kind of thinking about it now, it's like, we're teaching our kids to be, strong minded, but we got to teach them in the right way, not to be so independent and like just be so focused on that where they don't want to ask for help. That's kind of a big thing too. Like, it boils down to our kids and how you raise them. And that's the reason why I am the way I am, because my parents taught me independence, and I was very independent at an early age. So just kind of looking back and looking at it, like, yes, my parents put that mindset of being strong minded, but it mainly focused, yes, being motivated and being that person like that it likes to work and enjoys working, but also being very independent. and it can be also a downfall.
Instilling those good values of independence into our children is important. But at the same time, letting them know that it's okay to be vulnerable, it's okay to ask for help, and it's okay to accept help when you need it, but just not being reliant, which brings us to the three traits of weak-mindedness, which is reliance, when someone is overly reliant on someone else, the lack of accountability, and then the unmotivation. Those are the three main traits and characteristics of someone that is weak-minded. So the reliance on other people. They also then play the victim when you're so reliant on someone or something. I think this is another thing with weak-mindedness. It's not necessarily you're just reliant on someone. Some people are reliant on things. So they're reliant on cars. They're reliant on alcohol. They're reliant on drugs. They're reliant on a man, reliant on a woman. You know what I mean? It can sometimes be materialistic. It can sometimes be a substance abuse issue, and it can sometimes be a person. So that's huge, is not becoming reliant on things. If you're going to be reliant on someone, being reliant on God, because he's the one that provides for us. But when you start putting your trust into things and into people, you're just setting yourself up to be
Yeah, and
disappointed.
you kind of lose yourself. You don't have your own personality or your own self. Especially like if it's a person, you're so reliant on them for everything. If it's money or financial, if it's um, affection or whatever, you can literally lose your personality because you're so attached to somebody else.
The lack of accountability is the other part that's really that stands out with weak-mindedness. So when you do something that is wrong, or something that even isn't necessarily wrong, but is something that does not live up to the expectations of what maybe you thought it was going to, or someone else thought it was going to, they tend to deflect and say, well, it's not my fault. I did my part. They won't take accountability. And we see this sometimes with addicts, and we see this sometimes with alcoholics. I was that way when I was a drinker. I would always say that, well, it's not my fault that, I was late. It's not my fault that this didn't get done. It was always about me. It was always the point about me, but nothing was ever my fault. That's something that I can definitely attest to.
Yeah. No, that's true because I mean, we all fall short in many ways daily, and lack of accountability when you are around somebody that can't take accountability for something as easy picking up, like in a relationship, like I left all the dishes. Like, oh, I was so busy working
Or
eight to
you dirtied up
five.
the dishes too.
Exactly. Or that, or like I worked 8 to 5, like your husband worked 8 to 5, so that's no excuse. So like, just having that making yourself accountable for your actions and what you do is a big thing.
One other thing that tends to go along with people that are strong minded is they tend to also be strong willed. Strong willed means that you're determined to do something, even if others advise against it. Now, that's not saying that being strong willed is a bad thing all the time. But when you are forcing something, or you're trying to do something without seeking counsel, without seeking advice from others, and not listening to advice from others, that becomes tricky. In the Bible, in several areas of Proverbs, which I'm going to read off each of these, tells us that it's just not wise to be without counsel. First one comes from Proverbs 11:14, where it says, where there is no guidance, a people fails, but in an abundance of counselors, there is safety. Next one, Proverbs 12:15, one of my favorites. The way of the fool is in his own eyes, but a wise man listens to advice. One of the other people that works at the clinic was because I used this particular verse 2 weeks ago. One of the people at the works at the clinic, he had said to me, he's like, yeah, I like that verse, but when you say seeks advice or listens to counsel, make sure that counsel is good counsel.
Yeah, that's true.
Because when you're surrounded, like let's say for example, again, because I'm going to be teaching this at a behavioral and a substance abuse clinic, when you're surrounded by people that are using drugs, you're surrounded by people that are drinking alcohol with you, their advice is not going to be smart. It's not going to be wise.
Especially if they're under their influence,
Exactly.
they're not going to be.
So seeking those
Yeah.
outside of your circle
Right.
is key.
Yeah.
Proverbs 13:10 says, by insolence comes nothing but strife, but with those who take advice is wisdom. So once again, just saying that's wise to seek out advice. Two more here. Proverbs 15:22 says, without counsel, plans fail, but with many advisors, they succeed. And then the last one is Proverbs 19:20. Listen to advice and accept instruction that you may gain wisdom in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So all of these are pretty much saying the same thing, right? That it's foolish to not listen to others. So being strong-willed in most cases is going to be foolish. Now, sometimes being strong-willed can be okay if the thing that you're strong-willed about is moral. You're standing strong. You're strong-willed on your moral compass. Absolutely, that is positive. But we know that the vast majority of people have a hard time with that, including myself. So yeah, I just really think the strong-mindedness and the strong will, those two things, again, they go together. They're kind of married together, but we just have to be careful with the independence piece on the strong-mindedness, and then with the strong-willed, don't be so strong-willed that you won't listen to others'
Yeah,
advice.
because your opinion might be good too, but others' opinion might take your mind and be like, oh, hold on, I didn't think of that this way. Example, this morning we were listening to a speaker on YouTube, and when he was reading a Bible verse, I kind of had to stop in my tracks. I'm like, what did he just say? I was like, that's not the Bible, is it? And my husband was like, yeah, that's the Bible. And then when he went more in depth in that scripture, I was like, oh, okay. Like now it makes sense. So yeah, just not, yes, you can be strong-minded, strong-willed, but also being open to other people's opinion. You might not agree with it, which is perfectly fine. But also taking that and kind of processing it, be like, oh, okay, maybe there's something else to kind of deep dive into.
Yeah, I think one thing that I'm now going to add, this is very helpful. One thing that I'm going to add is open-mindedness.
Right.
So if you're strong-willed and you're strong-minded, then to get the strong will out of the way, you need to become open-minded. So being open-minded, not closed-minded, is going to be the next key there, because that's going to keep you away from that strong will, because that's going to allow you to hear others' voices. It becomes dangerous when the only voice that you hear is yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Because then you're just living in your own head. So you can reason just about anything in your own head. We need other people to check us and to tell us, hey, that's wrong. Or, hey, what you're doing right here, that's hurting me. That's not allowing me to be in my safe spot, in my spot of peace.
Right. And that's a big thing too, of you being so stuck in your own mind and your own thoughts, but not letting God's voice into that space can lead to a very dark path at times, to where the devil kind of chimes in and really, you're already lit, for instance, putting yourself down. The devil can even make it 10 times worse. He can speak through your mind, give you thoughts, give you also visions and dreams, to the point where you're like, okay, you're really doubting yourself, or you're really in a low place.
When you look around at the influence of the world, it's very much so dark.
Right.
You know, there are advertisements that we see out there, especially during this time of year, because we're in the spooky season, right? So you know, the vast majority of what we see on TV and in movie theaters right now is going to be horror. You know, so it's all about violence. It's all about, you know, serial killers and all of these types of things. So that's what we consume. That's coming into our minds at all times. So it's not hard then to lose yourself if you are closed-minded. You know, you have to be more open-minded and more willing to listen once again to others.
Yeah, I'm ready for that season to be over with. I'm ready for Thanksgiving season.
Yes, that's my favorite.
Yeah. Spooky season is not for me anymore. Maybe back in the day it was. Not anymore. Yeah.
Thanksgiving's my favorite, and then we get into another season that I'm not as keen on, which is Christmas, because I think that we've really lost
Tradition.
the true nature behind Christmas. Even with the world's definition of the true nature behind Christmas, it was always about family. Yeah. You know, even though we know as Christians it's about Christmas, it's about Christ, but even, you know, as the world, you know, at least when I was growing up, it was about family and spending time around family
traditions, and you don't see
now
that often.
Now it's literally just about presents.
Yeah.
And you know, both of us having daughters, we know how that can be. Although Athena Joy isn't as bad as Janiyah Vanessa when it comes to that type of stuff.
So easy. She'd like one thing and then she's golden. I'm like, thank you.
Yeah, not your stepdaughter.
Yeah. She's easy. She's not that hard. She's not that picky. So
right. Well, thank you all for joining us and for allowing us to come into your homes and present this this teaching, I guess, on strong-mindedness, weak-mindedness, and it will definitely help me in my presentation. But until next time, my name is Derek.
My name is Kayla, and we are the Berries. Bye, guys.
Take care.